Good afternoon, everyone. I am Annie, a coordinator at EML, and I'd like to welcome you all to the next lecture in the EML webinar series for 2021 to 22. EML is the flagship lecture series of IIT Madras, and it conducts year-long lectures and interviews with distinguished speakers from various domains, including media, sports, administration, literature, and politics, among many others. In the past, we have proudly hosted the likes of Kailash Satyarthi, His Holiness Dalai Lama, Venkaiah Naidu, Indra Nui, and A.R. Rahman, to name a few. To continue this grand legacy, I'd like to introduce our speaker for this lecture, Mr. Arjun Vajpai. Mr. Arjun Vajpai is the youngest Indian to climb the Mount Everest at an age of 16 and is also the youngest Indian to summit a 6 out of a total of 14 8,000 meters and above mountains in the world in 2018. Being the most written and talked about Indian mountaineer, Mr. Vajpai has played a pivotal role in putting India's flag on top of the world's highest and most dangerous mountains. Other than mountaineering, Mr. Vajpai is also a motivational speaker, a philanthropist, an author, and a risk taker who is known for his vibrant demeanour and valorous acts of survival. Sir, we're extremely honored to have you here with us today.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure to join all of you guys at the EML of 2021-2022. Absolute privilege to be amongst all of you. Excited for the interview ahead.
Thank you, sir. We're excited too. So let's start off with the questions. So, firstly, have you always wanted to be a mountaineer? And also, what was your parents' reaction when you told them you wanted to climb the Everest at an age of 16?
I was always an adventurer. Ever since I can imagine, I was always up to climbing trees, hiding in trees while playing hide and seek. So I always loved being in sports. Was never very good at academics. So it's actually kind of very funny. My parents laugh at this thing. Today I'm giving lecture in IIT, or I'm talking to children from IIT, and they're like, you could not even barely pass your school exams. So it was in certain times it was very funny, but I always knew that I wanted to do something with my hands and my legs. I was not very good at studies. So naturally, I played a lot of sports, gave a lot of importance to good training. I always wanted to train very hard and become the best in whatever sports I wanted to play. And then slowly, when I was in my 11th grade, I remember telling my parents for the first time that I want to climb Mount Everest. And my mother was like, she was standing in the kitchen and she was like, you know what, like, I have more chances of going to the moon than you reaching the base camp of Mount Everest. So I was like, I also want to go to the moon, and dreams are dreams. So my mother was joking around. She was not very supportive. She was like, please study, go back to studying. You have your exams coming up. Don't think about all of these stupid things. When my father was very supportive, he is an ex-army officer. He was from the paramilitary forces in the army, so he was very happy. He was like, good, but we don't know when. Huh? He's like, you concentrate on the studies. I have some friends who are mountaineers. We'll figure out. So there was some kind of a hope from my father. My mother was like, just absolutely out of the question. So just like any other Indian parents, the challenges were very similar. Sports is good, but don't take it too seriously. You have to study. It was the same thing. My father was he still has his name written in his school, and he would say because he scored some very high marks. And my mother also, she was also, her name is in the college, and my sister was also like a scholar. So in a family of all academic people, I was the black sheep, but I was always very proud of being the different one. I think it gave me a sense of rush, and that is how my parents reacted. Just like any other Indian parents.
That was quite interesting. And now, in continuation with that, what was your motivation for climbing the Everest? Was it somewhere driven by a desire to set a new record as the youngest Indian? And also, who or what was your inspiration when you started pursuing mountain climbing seriously?
So the first time when I thought about climbing the Mount Everest, it was actually much before than what most people think. The dream came into me when I read a chapter in my Hindi textbook in my 6th class. My Hindi teacher came and she was telling us after our summer vacation that this is a chapter on Madam Bachendri Pal. and she says it's from her book called Everest Meri Shikhar Yatra, and her story inspired me that day in my classroom. And I very distinctively remember reading about how in the 60s, Madam Bachindri Palji made it to the summit, overcoming all odds, and that really inspired me. That really triggered something deep within me. Never at that point of time I thought that I will end up climbing Mount Everest one day. When you're in your sixth class, you're hardly 10 years old, 11 years old. You dream very big, but you don't have the confidence to pursue everything that persistently. So same happened with me. I read about it, got inspired, but did nothing. Finally, in my 10th grade, I think I was in that kind of a mind space in my head where I realized that this is what I want to do. Like I had tried and tested everything what people were telling me to do, and I kept failing. And I never let failures come in my way. I kept telling myself, no problem, I'll keep trying, I'll keep trying. But then first time when I went to did my courses in NIM, in Nehru Institute of Mountaineering in Uttarkashi, I realized that this is what I was designed for. Like how much effort I would put into studies, I would get very little return out of it, right? And then here I had to put in very little effort, and so much return came out of it. Like it was almost like fish to water. It was like all this while a monkey was being judged, a goldfish was being judged by his ability to climb a tree, right? So so I think once I found my calling in outdoors and in adventure sports, I realized that there are more monkeys like me across the world, and they all love climbing things, and people love climbing mountains, and there's a diploma course which you can do with it. So then once I got to know about this, once I got introduced to mountaineering, I never left it. That was a feeling like nothing which I'd experienced ever before. It was a feeling of knowing that I'm utilizing myself to my optimum level. I felt worthwhile for the first time, and that is how I got introduced to mountaineering.
Thank you, sir. It's also very inspiring to know that you were able to figure out your passion from such a young age, and it's something that even many of us struggle even this day. So, to the next question, how long did it take you to prepare for your first climb? And also, what would be a realistic timeline for a person training to reach the peak of Mount Everest?
So it depends from person to person. How long does it take to train for Everest? And people often ask me this question. Back in 2010, when I went to climb Everest, I was the 151st Indian to reach the summit of Mount Everest. Since then, in the last 1 decade, we have seen a rise in mountaineering as a sport in India. There are more than 150 summits, which has just happened in the last 10, 11 years since then. And I feel there are all kinds of stories which have come forward of inspirational Indians who have overcome different kinds of battles in their lives to climb the mountain of their life, which happens to be Everest, right? And their journey comes forward. So as a professional mountaineer, one must do their courses. So basic and advanced mountaineering course is a must. Apart from that, to be able to climb a mountain which is 8,000 meters tall, one must go about climbing for some 6,000-meter mountains, get themselves acclimated above 7,000 meters, and then go about climbing Everest. Now, however, this is the more traditional approach to it, but there is no set formula of becoming a good mountaineer, right? If it was that way, then it wouldn't be in a sport like mountaineering, because mountaineering is a sport where you break stereotypes. It's about breaking the walls which are built around you, to discover newer versions of yourself, to evolve yourself every single day. So every single day you achieve your goals, every single day you set your targets, and the next day you break them down and you think that, oh wow, I've gotten over here with so much effort. I think I can discover another few more steps ahead. So you keep pushing yourself and you keep discovering newer versions of yourself. So training, like in my case, I just did my basic and advanced mountaineering course, and I climbed a 6,000-meter mountain before Everest, and straight away went to Everest. Now, there was a lot of criticism back in the day also. If I criticize today people who are probably not following my set way, probably they'll also think that, they're criticizing me the same way I got criticized by people who thought that there was a certain way of achieving your dreams, right? Everest is just a mountain outside which helps us, identify any kind of a mountain in our lives. I am climbing a little mountain, but I believe that everybody has mountains in their life which they want to climb, right? And we are all trying to climb these mountains, and there's no fixed way of climbing them. Climbing actual mountains has taught me that.
Okay, sir. Since we've discussed the physical training aspect, so coming to the how you prepare yourself mentally, now considering the risks involved in climbing high altitude mountains, how do you prepare yourself mentally before each climb?
uh, yes, there is risk involved, but I think I'm wired a little differently in this way. My mother always says that there's something wrong with me in my head, because I absolutely love doing mountaineering. When I'm on the mountains, I feel I'm at home. When I'm in extreme situations, what most people would call extreme, what will be extreme for you is basically my normal, and what is normal for you is my extreme. So probably it works that way. So in intense situations, uh, I feel a sense of relaxation. I feel a sense of calm which flows through me. I'm able to function much more better. And that is why I said previously that I felt like I was designed for a sport like mountaineering, because I was able to take it with when most mountaineers or people look at mountains or look at a hanging glacier from a 5,000-meter long wall, on a mountain, you get scared. And the same thing when I look at it, I find it so beautiful. I'm like, wow, I want to go climb this thing. So it's the same thing, but we are looking at it so differently. So when you love doing something, there's nothing like stress, or there's nothing like mental stress. I'm very grateful to have found something in my life which I absolutely love with all my life, where I can leave all the baggage of my life and just be who I am and be what I want to do, and keep pushing myself and become a better version of myself every hour, every single moment which I spend up there on the mountain. So I feel, I do practice a lot of yoga. There is a lot of realistic stress in real life, being away from little philosophy. There is a lot of real life situations on 8,000-meter mountains. We are losing members. Out of all my 13 8,000-meter expeditions which I've done, I think only 2 or 3 expeditions we've come back with the same amount of people who we left with. So having dreams and chasing them down has a cost to it, and sometimes that cost of exploration has to be paid with life. The margin of error is so little. A little bit here and there, a little bit of a decision gone wrong can result in somebody's life, somebody who is a bread earner for their family. But yet the pursuit to push our limits, to understand ourselves much better, to gain a better perspective in our lives, to still practice one of the oldest known sports to mankind, which is mountaineering. I think we continue to practice this sport with a smile on our face in the pursuit of exploration.
That was very interesting to know, and it also offered a fresh perspective on how we view high risks in our life. so, you were planning on a second attempt at climbing Everest, but this time it was without oxygen supplementation. So, how did it go, and did you do anything different this time to prepare yourself?
Yes, obviously, the climbing with oxygen is fantastic. It's beautiful. It's very difficult. There's um, a huge difference. When I would be climbing with oxygen, I would not think about as many things. If you think that climbing an 8,000-meter mountain with oxygen is enough risky already, climbing without oxygen is something which is, I feel, should only be attempted by mountaineers who are well seasoned, who are very well acclimated to the mountains and 8,000-meter extreme conditions. Margin of error is even more finer. Then climbing, it's already very risky business climbing an 8,000-meter mountain anyhow. And then when you're not using oxygen, it can be absolutely fatal. The success ratio is so low that some of these mountains have yet to see a first oxygen-less ascent. There are several mountains in India which are yet to see an oxygen-less ascent. So that's how difficult it is. I would push myself physically, but you can only train yourself physically up to a certain point, right? And after beyond that point, the strongest of the strongest person in this world and the weakest of the weakest person physically is at the same level. You can train your body to give an output for 20 hours, 24 hours, 72 hours, but when situations get extreme in the mountains, when Mother Nature is shows its fury, sometimes it can get a little harsh for us humans to survive over there. And in those during those moments of time, it's very important to keep in mind of physical and mental fitness. That's when the mental fitness starts kicking in, and you realize that is what it is which is going to take you ahead now. Because after a while, you really need to have the strength in your mind to, zone out all the pain, zone out all the suffering, physical suffering which one is going through.
Thank you for sharing with us, sir. The next question we have is from one of our audience. It's from Rushikesh. So Rushikesh asks, you were paralyzed for a while in 2012, back in 2012. So how did you overcome that? And what was it that motivated you to come back and to keep following your passion?
So I feel that everybody, all of us, has their own way and our own challenges and our own Everest in our lives which we want to climb and which we want to overcome, right? And I feel that everything which happens to me in my life is an opportunity for me. It's an opportunity to, as I said previously, to discover a new version of my own self, a version which I'm not yet familiar with, which lies deep within me, but I'm yet to see it's yet supposed to rise, right? And these are the moments where this version of yourself is supposed to rise. So I get very excited every time life throws a challenge at me. So one of the similar challenge, very unfortunate incident which happened where my Sherpas were also exposed in extreme conditions because of me. My body gave up at a mountain deep inside Tibet, in on a mountain called Cho Oyu. Cho Oyu happens to be the world's sixth highest mountain, and my aim was to target was to achieve two 8,000-meter mountains in one season, but I was being too ambitious. I just climbed three 8,000-meter mountains, one behind the other. I had never dealt with failure in my life. I never faced failure as far as mountaineering was concerned, right? Failures in smaller ways, but generally always resulted in bigger victories. So when Cho Yu happened, it was a failure which I realized that I must manage it well. It was a jab in my gut, which almost took me 6 months to recover. I put my parents through a lot of emotional distress, seeing their son lying in the hospital, not being able to work from the left side of her body is not a very good thing, which I put my parents through. In the whole path of dreaming and dreaming big and daring to chase it, but there were realities which I had to confront. And I think life had its own way of humbling me. I think my head was flying too high up in the sky with all these big mountains which I was climbing, and the mountains had its own way of teaching me the right lesson of getting paralyzed and then leaving me alive just enough for me to come back to them, to understand why it happens, whatever happens. So it was a very difficult journey. The physiotherapy, recovery period, starting from the scratch again. But it was a beautiful journey because I realized that that is what all that I was capable of doing, right? And if that had never happened to me, I would have never become a much more stronger, more evolved Arjun that I was supposed to be. I would have missed out upon that. And it was actually a beautiful blessing in disguise, because see, it was so funny that 4 years down the line, the very same mountain which paralyzed me, I ended up climbing it and became the youngest person to climb, I think, 8,000 meter mountains. No, 8,000 meter mountains after that. Because so it was an entire journey, and it was beautiful. I think now that I look at it, back then, obviously, it was a little difficult, but no greatness is, I think, ever achieved, or no lessons are ever learned from successful incidents. Success is necessary for us to move forward, but for us to learnings only lie in failures. And how you deal with your failures is the only most important thing in life, not how you are at your best moments. Learning how to be the best in your failures at your worst moments.
Sorry to interrupt 1 second. Just we have some questions from the live audience. So
great.
Annie,
Okay.
You can ask that.
What was your fitness regime?
Back in the day when I used to train a lot more, Now I have several injuries, so I've taken it a little bit easy, but I still continue to push my limits. I still go about doing 60 kilometers cycling before expeditions every single day, most of the week. Then there's a half marathon which I run few times a week. Then there are several CrossFit sessions, and there is special endurance based training which we conduct. So these are the basic fronts which I work on. It's also to keep in mind when people ask about training is not it's not the whole training facade which we see nowadays. There's a lot of equipment, there's a lot of facilities. It's not the different kinds of infrastructure around you which matters while you're training. It's that one exercise which you do you know that 10 million times, which is actually going to help you become stronger. It's that it's those small things which you do on repeat every single day for a consistently for a very long period of time, regardless of what is happening around you, whatever is going on all around you. You do not move from your routine, right? You do not move from those small tiny things which you're going to be doing on repeat every single day. And that is the most crucial part of my training, those few small things which I do every single day on repeat every single day of my life.
Also, the next question is, with sports climbing being a part of the Olympics this year, do you spend time bouldering or lead climbing on an average day away from the altitudes?
I try to. Unfortunately, I have moreover now become like my body is taking shape of a mountaineering body, where like it's very hefty, it's very heavy, and it's more about surviving the next 60 days, 70 days on a high altitude mountain. That kind of fitness rather than sport climbing. Sport climbing, you have to be really agile. So I do sometimes practice, and I go have fun climbing time on the wall at IMF in New Delhi. There's some more sporting, beautiful facilities which I've come across Delhi NCR region, but not in a competitive way. I definitely love the sport of sport climbing, and I'm looking forward to its future in the world, because now that it's become an Olympic sport, there's a lot of opportunities which are going to be coming up in the same arena.
Thank you, sir. The next question is also from an audience. Abhijit asks, how does one gather funds for expeditions such as this? Also, could you please walk us through the monetary aspects of the mountain climbing part?
So expeditions to an 8,000-meter mountain is definitely very expensive. Part of the reason why most people across the world are not able to practice the sport is also the funding required for it, the logistics, the time. And as my mother tries to say that, she's like, you end up putting so much time, so much energy, your life on the risk, so much money. And then what do you get? To climb a pile of rocks? So yes, it is definitely very difficult, especially in our country. But the great thing about being in India is that there is still a lot of mountains which have yet not been climbed. The perfect paradise for any adventurer or explorer. We still have a lot of good, beautiful 6,000, 7,000 meter mountains which we've not yet climbed, which are very affordable to climb. So not all mountains are very expensive. Mountaineering is definitely a little bit of an expensive sport, but over a period of time, the more stronger you get, you can start climbing mountains in an alpine style manner, where you're climbing shorter mountains with much more lesser resources, but with lots of experience under your belt, you can navigate through them safely. So the more time you spend, the cheaper your expeditions will get slowly, because the more knowledge you will gain, the better you will be able to plan each expedition. 8,000 meter mountains are expensive because of the amount of logistics and resources which goes into it. I personally tried sharing my story. I've been very lucky to get the support, get the kind of support and the kind of love which I've received over the years from all my fellow Indians, all the media people, all the corporates who ever supported my expeditions, who helped us turn our realities, who helped us turn our dreams into realities. So been very lucky. I'm very grateful for that. It's difficult. We are trying to bring about a change so that more and more people get inspired. I can already see that there are so many more youngsters now than 2010 up to now, who are taking up the sport of trekking, who are heading more outdoors, who are becoming more adventurous. It's become the cool thing to be in the mountains and take a beautiful adventure activity selfie. So it is definitely becoming the cool thing. The important thing now is that we keep the idea of conservation in our head, with it becoming a popular sport in India. When we're going outdoors, we need to keep in mind that we do not exploit nature. We take all the learnings which we can, and we maintain the same harmony which we found nature in. That leads to me letting everybody know, whoever is an adventure tourer, whoever thinks of going to the mountains in a small way or in a bigger expedition format, must make sure that they keep the mountains clean. It's a menace in our country. A lot of people, with the popularization of the mountains, a lot of people are heading towards the mountain, and we are facing a lot of challenges keeping the mountains clean. So I think more and more trained mountaineers and more trained people of this field will help us tackle this challenge in a much more better way.
Thank you, sir. It's very encouraging to know that a lot of people are taking up mountain climbing and such unconventional paths. Um, Next is an interesting question. So, what was your life like before reaching the top of the Everest, and how has it changed ever since?
It was almost the same. At least from my side, it's always been still the same. I still end up having fun in life on the same small little things like kadi chawal and rajma chawal and my favorite foods. And I still enjoy waking up early in the mornings and getting getting a kick out of life by being the first one in my peers to get into bed early at night. So I'm still a little wiring problem, I think, in my head, little cuckoo over here. But life hasn't changed much for me. I do all of these things because they bring me utmost joy. My routine, my dreams, which I have, I work on them every single day to turn them into a reality. So, um, not much of a life difference, but yes, it in a way it is very heartwarming. It is very nice to see the kind of people I have met through this journey, the amazing mindsets which I have seen, the perspective which this life has shown me about never to judge people on their backgrounds, never to judge people, fighting against stereotypes. And life is such, as we grow up, we tend to judge a lot, right? So every time there's a new incident which happens in my life, I realize that we have to still get a little better in not judging people. Somehow we always try to bring things into context by relating to things or saying, yes, I agree. But I think there are these several things which I do in my everyday life. I continue to stay that way. From a public opinion, I think probably yes. Um, I feel extremely overwhelmed to see so many more younger Indians now take up the dream of climbing Everest. There are about 20 to 30, 16 to 18-year-olds now in India itself who've climbed the Mount Everest after 2010. I am very happy to see that there is a young girl called Purna from India, who's the youngest who's the youngest woman in the world to climb Everest, now the second youngest climber in the world. So I like the India which we are a part of. We have the perfect opportunity and the perfect space and the knowledge for us to work on our dreams and turn our dreams into a reality.
Thank you, sir. We have some more audience questions. So,
Yeah.
Sumit Kumar asked, what are the details about your next expeditions?
Details about my next expedition. So we are planning to do the first winter ascent of Trishul. I was climbing this mountain last year. Unfortunately, we couldn't make it to the summit along with my climbing buddies Ali Khan and Parth Upadhyay. We were trying to do it alpine style, but the weather got really nasty, and the mountain decided that not this year. So we came back. Hopefully, this winters we make it to the summit of this mountain, and we try and do the first winter 7,000-meter ascent for an Indian Himalaya. No Indian has ever climbed a 7,000-meter mountain in winters in India. So we are trying to, break down those certain barriers which are set out there.
Thank you, sir. All the best. And the next question is again an audience question. It's from Harsh Tyagi, and he asks, as a school kid, how can someone start their journey as a mountaineer? Are there any programs that can participate? They can participate.
Definitely. I run several school programs along with a company called Climb Up. I'm glad to be part of the Climber family. We run several outbound leadership programs for corporates, for colleges, and for school-going kids. And if you are a school student and if you want us to come to your school and host an adventure camp or host a one-day-long adventure activity camp in your school, we'll be more than happy to do so. Do go over to Climb Up page on Instagram or on social media, and then drop by a message, and we'll be more than happy to speak to your schools and send across our teams to host a half-day school program or an adventure camp in your schools.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for sharing. Moving on to the next question. From your mountaineering perspective, what do these natural landforms like mountains and glaciers represent to you, except apart from the inherent aesthetic values that people usually associate with them?
For me, I look at them like in so many different lights. Sometimes they come in form of gurus, sometimes they are realistic, they're a source of life for me, because that's the only way how drinking water is available to mankind. If we don't have enough glaciers on these mountains, where are we going to get our drinking water from, right? So different expeditions have shown me different lights, has thrown different light on the mountain every single time. Sometimes they become goddesses and devis, and they come in your life giving you lessons, and sometimes they come into form of gurus, where they are giving you knowledge in the form of taking away the darkness which you have inculcated in your life. So I feel a mountain is for me, it's a way of life. It teaches you the way of life, apart from their just aesthetic sense of glaciers and snow slopes and a pile of rocks on top of each other. I see evolution when I see the mountains, how the Asia Pacific plate was collided with the Gondwana land as it drifted up, right? And the Himalayas started getting formed. So I feel it's a beautiful outcome. Mountains tell us that when energies collide, something rises up. So two platforms collide. So many things to learn from it. And for me, mostly it's about life, the way of life.
That was very beautifully put. Thank you, sir. The next question. The Everest cleanup campaign of 2019 made headlines when tons of waste was removed from the mountains, which has lately turned into garbage dumps. And this is something you discussed earlier too. So, what role do you think mountain expeditions play in creating such a situation and also in undoing these damages?
We must address the issue of climate change affecting these glaciers, mountaineering directly affecting these environments. And I always tell people that the kind of impact which probably a mountaineering expedition has on a mountain is much more lesser. Let's first keep in mind that Everest is a completely different story. No other mountain is as frequently visited as Everest in today's time, as it is not only just a mountaineering feat, but it has also become a bucket list activity for some really wealthy people across the world. They're climbing the mountain sometimes for the wrong reasons, probably the right for them, but wrong according to the mountaineering aesthetics. So if you talk about Everest, Nepal has been taking quite a few measures. I remember since my 2010 expedition to Everest, we were part of the Eco Everest expedition led by Dawa Steven Sherpa as part of the Asian Trekking team. And Asian Trekking happens to be one of the oldest organizations in Nepal. So they've been carrying out. We took precautions as bad as we were even bringing down human waste, because beyond a certain point, up in those really pristine environmental landscapes, even as much as human poop is is unfortunately a kind of environmental hazard. So anything apart from snow, ice, and rock is garbage over there. The tree line has finished long ago, so there is no wood. Everything is finished at that altitude. So anything which you take over there is garbage. And how you treat the glaciers up there is going to result in the drinking water which we get down here. So it's very important to keep them clean, keep the glaciers clean. Also to address the bigger issues which we as mankind are facing today is alternative sources of energy which we need, right? Because we are growing, development is happening, and we do need newer and newer forms of energy, but we don't know where to get it from. We are still cutting down trees. Most of our energy still comes from coal. We're still not able to go fully nuclear because we don't have a lot of answers to the questions out of that whole resolve. But those are the bigger questions which we need to, I think, focus on than a bunch of mountaineers trying to climb a mountain.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Next, again, we have an audience question. So, Dr. Sachin Kalekan has asked, could you suggest some non-technical trekking peaks that can be climbed in India and Nepal, and also about whom to contact for such expeditions and how to train?
Certainly, there are several in India. There's Deo Tibba, Hanuman Tibba, Friendship Peak. There are a lot of small trekking mountains which you can attempt in India, which are 6,000 meters plus, and you don't need certification to be climbing them to get a good sense of adventure and exploration. Several peaks in Nepal also, which you can go climb, but you might need certification to climb over 6,000 meters. So you better do your courses before that. And sorry, I forgot your second question.
Whom to contact for such expeditions and how to train?
Sorry, you cracked up again. I can't get your question right. How do you?
Whom to contact for such expeditions?
Okay, who to contact? So there are several agencies, adventure operators who organize these expeditions. Just go online, check it out. There are several expedition agencies and operators which carry out these things in Nepal and India.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you for sharing. And we've come to the final question of the lecture, and that is, what lessons have mountain climbing and your 3 near-death experiences taught you?
The lessons are plenty. There are lots of learnings, but for me, the most important one is if you are breathing every single day, if you are waking up every single day, you still have a purpose. Don't forget that ever. Don't try so hard to blend into the society around you that you forget who you really are, and always keep dreaming big and daring to chase it. I try to climb the mountains outside to be able to climb the mountain within. One must always try to climb the mountains within through whatever they do outside, right? Whatever you hold yourself capable of, never limit yourself. Don't let your past ever decide who you are going to be in the future. Always remember the more steadier the foundation of a tall building, the more deeper the roots go of a tree, the more higher it can always rise. So the deeper you always fall in life, the more higher you are destined to always climb. So never let your failures define who you are. Learn from them and move forward. Always remember to dream big and to dare to chase them.
Yes, we have also some more audience questions. So Arjun Vajpai asked, you've been sponsored by brands like Mountain Dew. Often adventure athletes rely on sponsorship to continue pursuing projects. Do you feel more brands are showing interest in Indian athletes?
100%. See, as I told you, there's this big adventure revolution which India is going through right now. Everybody wants to be an adventurer. Everybody wants to head outdoors and go to the mountains and inculcate an adventure activity. Most of your startups across India, which are dealing in travel and outdoors, you look at their statistics. The consumers are increasing. More and more people want to inculcate adventure activities in their travel plans. So obviously, it's on a rise. Brands are taking notice of athletes now in these areas as well, because there are products which are available in the market for the masses to be using, and they want to have the right kind of strategy. They want to use the right kind of athletes to sell their brands or to sell their equipment across to their consumers who are going to be generating more business for them. So now that brands have entered Indian market, which are based, which are selling products around adventure and athletes, definitely the audience is growing. Is the right kind of scenario for them to take notice of athletes. It's happening already and keeps continue to grow every day.
Thank you, sir. We have another question. Can you describe your state of mind during a descent? And when does the sense of achievement or disappointment set in? Also, how do you focus on a safe descent amidst all these emotions?
So obviously the sense of achievement probably does come in for a brief moment of time when you're on the summit. You do feel very nice. But then obviously the survival instinct just kicks in and you know that you have to go all the way back down. And maximum accidents on a mountain probably happens well on your way back down. So you have to be more careful than what you were on your way up, more consciously aware than you were on your way up. And hence probably the sense of excitement and accomplishment comes only after we reach once we are at base camp, because then you know you're out of like the real danger zone. And what was the second part of what was the second part of the question? Sorry.
When does the feeling of emotion, achievement, or disappointment set in? And also, how do you maintain your emotions
when you don't submit, it just starts from the moment you've turned around. You're like just so pessimistic about everything after that. But I always tell people that with accepting failures, grieving is a very important process, and it must happen. If you just suppress the whole process of grieving in your failures, that too is stupid, because then you're not really addressing the issue. So grieve, don't waste time in grieving. Don't over exaggerate grieving. One must grieve to process your emotions and to take them out of the way so that you can get on with a fresh mind.
Thank you, sir. With that, thank you so much, sir, for sharing with us so much details. And with that, we've come to the end of this lecture. I
You
would
can
firstly
ask
like,
the rest of the questions. I put some new questions. Yeah.
okay, we have some more
We'll
audience.
try and what's the time like? Sorry, my just this is also going off now. Phone battery.
Oh, okay.
Right. So we'll try and wrap it up now.
Okay, sir.
Okay, sir.
Right. Okay.
Okay, sure, sir. So with that, we've come to the end of this lecture, and I would like to extend my gratitude to Mr. Arjun Vajpai for spending his valuable time with us and sharing us so much and answering all our questions. I would also like to thank the audience who have put up so many questions for this lecture. And stay tuned to EML because we have an exciting lineup of speakers scheduled for the future. Also, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And until next time, it's a wrap. Thank you and bye.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir.